Phil, we talked last week about Joe, and I got more familiar with Joe than I thought I ever would. When did you start collecting, and are you still an active collector today?
I started collecting when they first came out in 1982. I was a child then, and um, I have not really ever really stopped. I would kind of wane a little bit here and there during the years. In the military, it was hard for me to collect. When I got out, it was a little harder because by then they had stopped making them. So then eBay came about, and I started looking online and found that there was more people out there who had the toys than I ever knew about. And I started buying then. And then in the last couple, I want to say 5 years, I really got back into it, just buying as much of what I wanted uh, online that I could. Thank God I'm not a completist where I'd have to have everything. I just collect what I like.
And do you just keep them in boxes and drag them out and pet them occasionally, or do you have?
That's exactly right. As much as I like to buy mint in box or mint on card, uh, to me, to keep them that way is like having a Ferrari and never taking it on the road. So I open it up immediately, which is going to kill a lot of guys out there, I'm sure.
Well, now, Eduardo, you have an online eBay store. You might sell other platforms, but you sell toys and a lot of GI Joes, and you have an amazing personal collection of GI Joes. And I was just kind of wondering, how far down this GI Joe rabbit hole have you jumped?
I mean, the rabbit hole goes deep. It's a fun rabbit hole, and it's a huge and very deep rabbit hole.
Today's talk is not a beginner GI Joe call, so I'm going to do a lot of listening, and you and Phil are going to talk, but we're going to today talk about a genre that is so niche down that some people don't even know it exists.
I call it factory errors, really. It's something I really came up with on my own because when I was a kid, I used to collect notes like currency, and I remember collecting like the errors, and I remember that always errors were more valuable than the regular note. So I was curious, and I was like, I wonder if GI Joe has errors. And then I started looking for them, and I started finding like 1, 2, 3, and so forth, and then the rest is history. But I have to say that Hasbro actually had very good quality control. Like, it was really hard for errors to come out from Hasbro US. There are other companies like, and probably Phil won't let me lie, but like Funko in India, they had like really poor quality control. Reason why their plastics are not as good, their cards are not as good. But other than that, pretty much they did whatever they wanted. And even though they had like a color scheme to paint the figures a certain way, they would do whatever. And then you can find nowadays 40 different variants of Snake Eyes or Storm Shadow. You can find Storm Shadows all white, white with camo on part of the body, but not the arms. It's just like different things, different crotches, different legs, different arms.
It's kind of like dating.
The errors are hard to find, even sometimes by me, because I'm collecting them. Because like right now, I know I had this figure which is Tunnel Rat, and I had it in my errors, and for the love of God, I can't find where the error is. I don't know what it is. I didn't write it down when I got it, and now I have to kind of like go through it. I was looking at it, and I can't find where the error is. But long story short, basically people come across it and they're like, oh my God, wait a minute, it doesn't have his Cobra symbol. Oh, it's invert. And then there are some that are really, which I'll show in a second, that are really like eye-catching, that it's an error the minute you see it without even thinking about it. And then there are the other ones where if you're not paying attention, you're not gonna, or if you don't have enough of them in your hands to notice the difference, you wouldn't know. You know what I'm saying?
Is there a market for selling errors?
There's like, I guess as time has a little gone by a little bit now, I see a couple of people collecting errors here and there. It's not like a huge thing. Again, the availability is not high.
Show me some examples of errors. I love to look at somebody else's mistakes.
Okay, so here you can see this is. Let me see if I can put it in the camera. This is a very like
Oh.
straightforward error.
Yeah.
I'll let Phil see. He can probably tell what's the error here.
Yeah. So you have a Vega Street Fighter character figure in the bubble, but it's the card itself is Honda. So
Right. He nailed it.
that's an easy one, and I've never seen that. So
Right. So
that's pretty
this is
wild.
something that you can pretty much right away notice.
Yeah.
If Sally wouldn't be able to know because she doesn't know who Vega is and who Edmond Honda is, but Phil would. But then, for example, this is something that Sally probably. This is a modern one. This is a current one from like recently. Sally would know this is an error.
I can't see it that well.
Okay,
Oh,
sorry.
well, yes, he's upside down.
So that's
That's
a
the gravity
nice error.
challenge, G.I. Joe.
It's a completely very noticeable. I'm trying to get the lights to not bounce.
Nope,
off
I can
it.
see it. He's upside down.
So he's
Yeah.
upside down, and he was actually glued
Inserted.
on the wrong side. Instead of being glued here, he was glued
Right.
on the figure's character's art. So
Oh,
these are really evident. So if you go to Target and you're walking down the aisle and you're looking at the figures, it's going to immediately pop out because you're going to see all of them correctly done, and you're going to see one that's different.
and
you
if I
can pick
see it,
that
don't
one.
grab it, rip it open and correct it. Buy it and leave it.
Buy
Yeah,
it and
buy
strip it
it
for about
and-
$4,000.
Yeah.
No, I would say I would say something like this right now probably would be like $75, like maybe $50.
Hmm.
I mean, right now, in a couple of years, it might be $150, maybe $200, because then people are going to open these out now, and less are going to be sealed. And when you get this one in 10 years from now, it may be more value. I honestly don't know what's going to happen in 10 years.
Yeah.
But if history repeats itself, probably everything will go up. But I wouldn't say I wouldn't say that errors are like thousands of dollars. I think the highest error I have ever purchased was around $500, and I don't have it with me here, but I have it in the Facebook page, so we can probably pretty much show it if you want, Sally. But
Sure. What was it?
Hold on. It was a Python Patrol.
Yes, of course it was.
Yeah.
I'll
Anyway,
compare it to my Python troll and we'll see.
yeah, we'll for sure compare with yours. I'm trying to see what I have here, but yeah, we'll show it in a second. Anyway, so yeah, here it is. It's a Python Patrol Trooper. Here it is. Okay, let me see if I can share screens real quick.
I think I've allowed everybody to share.
What?
I think I have allowed everybody to share screen.
Post disable participant screen sharing, so I can't share
did.
right now.
Well, let me see here. I think I can do that right
So
now.
while you do that, just to show,
got
here's another one. Here's another one. Same thing. These are all modern. These
Yeah.
are the modern ones that I was able to. This one is upside down, but it's in the correct space. It's just upside down.
Right.
Okay, you're back to, you can, all participants can share.
Okay. So let's see. Share screens. We can share this screen. Share. Is it sharing now?
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. So all these, this is just a gallery that I put up on eBay, and to be very honest, I have not touched this in several years. It's super outdated, but I tried to kind of let me move these from here. I try to kind of put the different errors here and try to kind of explain each one. What was the problem with
So
for
what's
example,
the expensive one? The $500 one? Is that? a
Oh,
Python?
it's this
Okay.
one. It's similar to this one. It's not this one. I mean, this one is an error. It's missing the rifle, basically. It's there, it's sealed, but he didn't come with a rifle. The factory
Oh.
forgot about it. So the rifle's not there. You're gonna see it in a minute. Let me
I
scroll
see.
down really quickly. See if I can find it. Here it is. So this is the most expensive one that I have actually bought. This was like $500 back in the day. I don't know, probably 8 years ago or something, maybe 10 years
And
ago.
the issue is that there wasn't a rifle included, or? what's it-
No. This one, you can see the rifle is there. It's just completely upside down, and the bubble was placed on top of the figure's art. So the bubble should go here in the gray area. You see the gray part?
Yeah.
That's where the bubble should be, and he shouldn't be upside down. And this is pretty much one of the toughest one. I haven't seen this again. But we could probably just look through some of these really quickly just to kind of get an idea. Like this one is a fun one. This is a 25th anniversary one. You're gonna recognize this, Phil, but the fun story here is he doesn't have eyebrows. Like they didn't paint the eyebrows on him. So, and the
Yeah,
anchor
he looks kind of weird.
so he doesn't have the anchor. So this one here, I wrote it so I don't forget. He's like 2007 shipwreck, anchor, tattoo, and belt. Oh, it has the anchor, tattoo, and the belt variant, but he doesn't have eyebrows. And then you can go through all of them and you'll see different things. Cobra Commander, without paint on his belt. So this belt was not painted. But these are the type of things that you could just you really wouldn't even notice it if you're just opening it up and playing with it. And then if you have a couple of them, when you're looking at them, you're like, oh, wait a minute, what's going on here? This one doesn't have this paint, or this one doesn't have this or that. So you can see that it's that basically the belt should be painted and it's not. Stuff like that. This is also, I want to say, a little bit modern. This is 2009 Rise of Cobra. This is like the movie they did some time ago. And basically no Cobra logo on her chest. She's supposed to have a stamp. And these stamps are also hard to find. The stamps normally are all there, but on a few of them, they're missing. And let's keep going. This is another one that has no Cobra logo. There should be a red big Cobra logo here, which is not. So those are the things that I kind of like look for. Figure card. So this is Storm Shadow figure card with Paraviper name tag. Okay, so you see this is Storm Shadow, the figure, but then underneath it says Paraviper. And stuff like that. Like we can go all day. I mean, this is a very large.
It's mainly ones that you have found. Like when you get a lot of stuff, do you go through it, or were you walking through Target and found it, or did you find these?
No, remember, one of the things about me is that I'm down in Panama, Central America. We don't have Target here, and we don't have flea markets, and we don't have any
Targets of a different kind, right?
So yeah, we have like regular stores, but what I'm saying is I don't have the ability to buy any of this, and so I mostly buy on eBay or on Facebook groups and stuff like that with my friends. Like the community, if you ask the community right now on Facebook, like collection about errors or whatever, somebody will point to me at some point and will say, hey, or they'll tag me or whatever, and I'll come into the post and comment or whatever, because I've been doing this for some time, and some people know. These are some fun vintage ones that Phil may recognize.
Yeah, I only deal with the vintage, so the modern stuff, I can see what you're talking about, but it's not something that I would want to grab myself. But some of the ones you've shown for sure.
Yeah, it's totally, it's something that it has to call your attention, and it has to be something you like. This is a vintage lift ticket. He doesn't have a hole. The hole for his microphone was never drilled on him.
Right.
So it doesn't have the hole there. Then there's ones like these. This is Sarton. Never had the, what do you call that on his head? The whatever
the
hair.
mohawk.
Yeah, the mohawk. It's not there. They forgot to put it. Do you see the art, the picture here?
Yeah.
How he has a mohawk on the picture?
Is it painted on, or is it just not molded on?
It's a plastic add-on that gets added to the figure. And it's not there. And I'm just showing the vintage stuff. This is actually a Blanca figure from the Street Fighter line as well. And his boot was not painted. He was only primed, but not painted. One of the boots.
Right.
They're supposed to be black. And then the theory with this is that the ink ran out when they were producing the line, and then let's say when it got to this figure, it just ran out and it didn't have enough ink to paint this, and then they replaced it and keep on doing them, and then missed to pull this out of the market, or left it and did a blind eye, I don't know, whatever. But this is basically, these are all vintage figures.
with the advent of 3D printers and the fact that I can buy one and put it on my desk, is are there a lot of fake weapons and accessories? Because it seems to be pretty easy to 3D print some of this stuff. Is it getting harder and harder to tell a fake weapon
I
and
mean,
aftermarket?
people know, like collectors know, like there's a big community out there and you can ask questions.
Is
Like
this fake?
yeah, and there's people who have specialized in different things. Like for example, there's certain high value figures that have very expensive accessories, or that the figure complete is very expensive. For example, heavy metal or that kind of thing, where
Yeah.
the accessories have been copied or have been reproduced, and then it's hard to tell, or newbies don't know how to tell what the difference is. But there's very cool people in the groups. If you ask the question, they'll tell you. There have been different posts where they kind of talk about them, and they'll tell you if it's fake or not. There's a couple of sites that might help you, but honestly, I haven't seen in GI Joe, like I don't know if you had, Phil, like like this gunnery, Imperial gunnery for Star Wars. You know how they
Yes.
have like
Yes.
version 1, version 2, version 3, like copies, not copies, not the word I'm looking for,
Repros.
repros. They'll show
Yeah.
you the different repros. I haven't seen that in GI Joe really, like for like to kind of look at the reproductions or no, but in the groups people will tell you. And
Yeah.
there's
You mentioned
the-
groups a couple times, Eduardo, and I know that you administer a group and it is called Action Figure Identification and ISO. Is that right?
in search of, yeah, ISO group.
ISO. So, and yet I know it's an invite. So if people really are interested in identifying not only GI Joe, but
It's actually public, but you just need to get like approved to get in. But you just fill out the form, and basically the approval is to kind of like, there's a lot of people trying to do publicity and stuff, and so we kind of like, you know, filter those out and stuff like that. But other
can
than
you
that,
sell
really
on that?
anybody can go in.
Can you sell on that
No.
site?
No,
Okay.
I have another one which is
Information
kind of
only.
old. One of the initial ones, the auction block with a friend of mine, and we basically, that was the first auction site ever on Facebook for GI Joes, and then everybody else started doing that. And we've kind of like faded out of that group, but there's a pretty couple thousand people in that group, and when you post stuff there, it sells. You know, it just, but that's for selling. This ISO group or identification group is only for IDing figures, IDing parts. So you pretty much just, you know, you take something like this, which you don't know what it is, and you take a picture, you post it, and somebody will tell you that's Star Wars, or that's Pocahontas, or that's Disney, or they'll tell you what it is.
I'm always amazed at the generosity of the true collector. They're not interested in you're not interested in only your own collection, but supporting other people who have a common interest. And I think that's unique to the last, 15, 20 years, where we were able to connect with other people informally, you know, through groups and things like that. Interesting. Eduardo and I met through Daily Refinement, which is a group we both belong to. It's kind of a mentoring group. And I met Phil on the internet when I was listing some Micronaut stuff. And one thing I wanted to tell people, if you have a collection and you want to, you know, you want to sell it or take care of it, I said, but can I have some stuff? But damn, Eduardo, what do I do? Ship it to Panama? And you don't. Eduardo has a location in Florida, don't you, that you mail your things to, and then you take care of getting it down to Panama. So collect. I know you're always, again, very.
Yeah, I've been doing this for years and years and years, no problem. Like everything gets shipped to my Miami address, and we get it here 3-4 days after that, without a hiccup. Nothing like, and I have bought it all, like the small things, the big things. I mean, like things that I would worry about, like maybe a Defiant or maybe an aircraft carrier, just because they're huge and they're really brittle. And then I would have to worry about who's shipping it. Are they gonna protect it the right way so it doesn't break on the way? So, you know, those are little, but I'm really not buying those things at the moment. Like they're huge, and I haven't had the opportunity, but if I do, like I received, Terradromes, multiple of them, and sold
Mm,
them, no problem. So we buy all these. Sometimes I just buy out entire collections.
Yeah.
Just wanted to show Phil this. I know he likes the
Oh,
vintage stuff. So this is the
I do.
vintage. Let me see it. This is a
no, you gotta put
vintage.
something white. Put a sheet of paper behind it.
I think
Yeah.
it's
That's wetsuit. I can tell it's wetsuit.
yeah,
Oh,
you
oh,
can you can
oh,
you
yeah.
can pretty much just tell it's wetsuit, right? And
Yeah.
you see the error. It should be noticeable.
It I don't know if are you talking about the color of the figure itself? It looks more blue. It should be more of a kind of aqua or lighter
Right.
color.
It's actually the right color. The thing is, on his
Okay.
chest, he's missing a white background. Like he has a chest that's white and has an insignia, a red insignia. The
That's
white
right.
paint, which actually occupies the whole chest, was never
Right.
put on him, and then the insignia was not put on him. So
Yeah,
it's like
it's hard to
missing
tell.
that. It's hard to find something like this. Like you don't find these things, you don't see them really often. And then this
And
guy,
the thing I would imagine is that it would be hard to find. I mean, I've been collecting since I was a child, and obviously before the internet, you didn't know, first of all, that there was other countries that was making this stuff. As a 10-year-old, 11-year-old kid, you are only in the world of, for me, United States, Chicago, Illinois.
right.
I only knew of toys in the US. I didn't know Brazil had them, India had them, and then, all the other countries. And then when you get older and you find out, oh, they were being made and they were different colors and different artwork and everything in different countries. And you think, okay, well, now I've expanded my knowledge. And then all of a sudden you come in with, well, now they have all errors, and someone who's an expert like you who knows all these different errors, I would imagine it's kind of hard to find other people that collect errors. Is
There
that
are
the
a couple.
case?
There are a couple. It's the same thing. Like, you find your people, and in the groups, you'll see who collects them, and you can talk to them. And there are collectors nowadays. Before, when I started, like nobody was collecting errors. Like I
Right.
didn't know anybody to trade with or
Yeah.
stuff like that. Now I know a couple of people, but you're totally right. Probably before the internet era. Well, not before the internet era, but when the internet era was starting, and Sally knows about that. But when the internet era was starting, basically, there was the forums, and you would discuss over forums, and you would leave a message, and then when somebody comes back and they see the message, they would reply, pretty much like a Facebook thing, but
Yeah.
in a different manner. There wasn't
And
so
you didn't have a
social.
cell phone to alert you that you'd gotten a message.
Right. So it was completely different. Philly's totally right. And you wouldn't know anything about other countries if you're a kid, 11 years old, you're collecting your stuff and you don't even know these came out. Then but as you grow and as you start making connections, but that Philly's totally right. It's hard to collect errors. This is something I chose personally because I like them to be different, and I like to have a thing like these pretty much belong like in a museum or something. Like these are the unique pieces. Like it's just,
Yeah.
you don't find them. Here's another vintage one for you, Phil. Uh
Night Creeper.
Night Creeper, but he doesn't have paint in his face.
Oh, okay.
His
Yeah,
face
it's
was
hard to
painted.
tell. I wouldn't be able
Yeah.
to see it, but I believe you.
I know how to do it. But anyway, like this maybe.
Oh, he's
Oh yeah, okay. So the eyes should be silver,
Right, and they're
and
not.
they're not.
It was not painted. So
Yeah.
it's just fun. It's just fun. It's a conversation piece. It's something I enjoy. And then the other niche I have, which is more broadly known, is the baggies, where India had them.
embarrassing here, but just, and this is not a newbie call, but baggies meaning they come in a bag.
They come sealed in a bag, and baggies and bubbles is the
Okay, and the
collection.
bubbles are the sealed against that are impossible to open kind of thing.
Right. It's like a little bubble, like the ones on the cards, but
Yeah.
like the drivers, for example, they would come in a box, on a vehicle box, and then you would have like a little window where you could see the driver standing next
Oh,
to the
okay.
vehicle.
Yes.
That window, it wasn't really a window, it was like a little bubble, and behind the bubble there's a card, a red card, where the figure will be just standing up there. And I kind of like collected all of them, and then I found variations of them, and then drivers done in different ways, different colors, and the driver for the same vehicle in different countries was painted slightly different tones of colors. It would have a brown hat, but the hat was more brown in one country, lighted brown in another country. So it keeps you busy. It's the same thing as doing a puzzle or doing it. Just, I don't know. That's more broadly available, and it was fun when you got, for example, a crystal ball figure, seal in a clear bag that said gratis in Spanish. No, not gratis in Spanish. It would say gratuit, which is like means free, or gratis in Spanish, but it would say gratuit, which is in French. And that was released, and there was a special promotion, a kids promotion back in France when back in the 80s and 90s, they would give this out with food and were different things. In Greece, they have like a sticker album, and then for every chocolate bar you would buy, you would get a little sticker, and then that would go into an album. And each country had their different things, and then these figures came in little baggies, and they would take regular US overstock, and they would bag them with Greek letters on the bags, and they would put different accessories that they had. Pretty much, I would say something like a company came up with the idea, these figures were popular, so they, I guess, I don't know the backstory to it, but they would have had to buy Hasbro's overstock and say, hey, you have a million figures there for different figures, different accessories, all thrown in give me all that, and they bag them, and then the accessories not necessarily match the right accessory for the right figure, but they were like mixed up. But they were mixed up correctly. So all of them have the right accessories all the time. All of them have the same accessories all the time, not the right accessories.
Right.
So, but it's fabulous to just, travel to through all these countries and see how they made these things different in each country. And to me, doing baggies and bubbles was one way to kind of niche down as well. Because again, the rabbit hole goes so deep. That then you could choose vehicles, but then you have a space problem because vehicles are big. There's like big vehicles, boxes that are big, like having all the Night Ravens and all the Phantoms and all the Conquest X30s and all that takes space. I know because they're there, and it's a lot of space, but it's fun to see the art on the European boxes versus the American boxes. They're completely different. The names were sometimes totally different.
Oh yeah.
You want to say something, Phil?
I was, I had something to say. Oh, I was going to go back to the fact that you had said that it was wild that to me personally, I thought the way that they packaged some of their overstock, and how they sold it in other countries is pretty wild, because here in America, obviously, there was only a couple ways you were going to get a toy. They were either going to come, you were going to buy them from the stores, you were going to mail away for them when you saved enough the points,
the flag points.
The card of points, or you would get them in a box of cereal. Lifeline came in a box of cereal. Now, Starduster and Lifeline. And when they had when I discovered the Fun School, the India versions of them, they were actually selling them with toothpaste. And I thought, well, that's kind of wild. I could see the cereal, because in America we were always throwing stuff into cereal, but to take toothpaste and throw a G.I. Joe guy on there and then sell it to possibly adults, but maybe you were buying it for your kid. It was just a weird way of other countries, the way they would market or sell their overstock. And I thought that was just totally wild.
It was it's super wild. In Spain, they did stuff like that too with chocolate bars, and they would do chocolate bars. It's really crazy. And
that's
I
funny,
have
they
a group
pulled
of friends.
bars, because weren't chocolate bars, G.I. Joes carried around chocolate bars to give to the kids in World War II. I think my dad told me that.
Correct. Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Right. So, but the fun thing is, like Phil just said, like you could go to every country and there's a story behind it. Like it's
Yeah.
and the stories are like I just I was working with a group of friends. Well, my friends were working more than me in terms of the book. I was just supporting them and helping them in some different ways. But they just wrote an encyclopedia of 7 books just about Spanish GI Joes when they came out, all the different variations, all the figures, all the promotions. They had meetings with General Mills. They took pictures of the letters. They like it's a very interesting set of books. It
Wow.
comes in a box. It comes in a box set. It's 7 books. It's beautiful. It's over.
Where do you buy them?
I would have to send you the link. I don't think they
You
have
do?
it anymore.
Oh, okay.
They were doing it. They produced a certain amount. They shipped them out, and I don't think there's an.
Let's
I
go
got
look.
one, but I don't have any more. They were not mass produced because they were really expensive to make because there were. We called it an encyclopedia because it was like, you know, when you had, you know, the different encyclopedias up there, it's just like it's like this. Has all the books, and it's amazing. And that's just Spain. It doesn't touch France. It doesn't touch Norway. Norway had something interesting. I don't know if you know about those, Phil, but it was fun to see how they did the art for the figures and the vehicles. They had a law up there. Like in Canada, there's a law where toys and figures that are sold, they have to be in both languages, Canadian, French, sorry, and English. So you
Right.
have like the double language cards and stuff like that. Well,
Yeah.
in the Nordic countries, you could not have toys shooting anything, like no firearms, no missiles shooting
Wow.
out. So you would actually see a figure that was an art figure that used to have a gun in his hand go like the hands like this because it didn't have a gun in his hand anymore because
Right.
the law didn't allow for that. And the same thing, you would see like a Conquest X30 flying over like the box art for the Conquest X30, and you
No
wouldn't see
rockets.
any missiles firing. So
Yeah.
just flying over, but no missiles. So
Mhm.
it's just, and getting those cards and getting those figures, and it's just, it's, first of all, they're almost non-existent now. Like they're in private collections and you can't even get them. I search for them all the time and I can't find them.
Wow.
Uh,
The only similar to what you were saying about how they in the Nordic countries they don't show that stuff. The only thing, and I'm sure you know this, the only thing I know similar to that was the story of the Lifeline here
with the
in
gun, no
America.
gun for the cornflakes.
Yeah,
Mhm. On the
exactly. Yeah.
leg.
So this, real quick, Sally, they had he's a medic, his name is Lifeline. He's a red figure, and he came with a gun and a white like oxygen carrying device, and then a black mask that he would put over the fallen Joe. And when they made him, he came with a gun and he had a holster on his person. Well, they had a bag version, which I'm sure you know Eduardo has. He came, and
Yep.
I don't think he came with a gun, but he had everything else. And then when General Mills, the toy or the cereal company, decided to sell some of the overstock, they didn't want to show kids the evils of weapons. So they made him, not only did he not have a gun, but then on his person, you don't see a holster for him to even put a gun there
I'm
if he
looking
had
at
one.
you. Can you see that,
As you
Phil?
talk, Phil,
Yeah.
I'm sharing screen. I'm showing the
Yeah, I
figures so
see it.
people get the
Okay.
idea of what you're saying.
No gun, no holster, and
No holster
wow.
on his right hand side. Yeah, there's no holster there.
But I found some pictures for the Nordic figures, and I just wanted to show them to you,
Sure.
kind of like so you get an idea of what they were. For example, look at this. Here's a comparison. This is the one on the right that says GI Joe. It's actually Sandar,
Yeah.
one of the dreadnoughts, and he's carrying a gun. And then you see it on the left. That's a Nordic figure. It was based on Action Force logo for the
Right.
European UK market. But then the weapons would be removed, and the art is completely different.
Yeah.
Here's Zarana. So
Even though they don't show the weapon, did they come
Mhm.
with a weapon?
They do.
Oh, so it's don't ask, don't tell.
Here it
Right.
is. Here it is. You see, the weapons are there. It's just on the toy, but
Instead of
not
a picture.
not on like it's. I think the law was advertisement. Like you
Yeah,
couldn't
yeah.
advertise, and then kind of like the artwork is advertisement, right? So here are you see you can pretty much relate to the U.S. ones, and you can see the difference. Look at the hands. It's like they had to even come up with they would edit the same. They would get the file with the, I guess, graphic art, and they would edit it, and they would have to kind of draw a hand or something because they
Mhm.
would have to remove the rifle. So you would have
Right.
to be able to see the whole hand. So it's just, again, it's just interesting to see how each country had different GI Joe.
Standards, practices. I think we can agree that the 80s was the best time for toys ever, because you had so many lines that came out. Everything was tied in with cartoons and comic books. You had GI Joe, Transformers, He-Man, Mask, Silverhawks. I mean, it just goes on. And the Crystar, I don't know if they had their own show or not. Just
They did.
so many different toy brands came out during the 80s.
and 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 if you're gonna go out of one toy line, like I know GI Joes, and even though I know GI Joes, I have friends that are like they've made a super duper in-depth collection about Steel Brigade, and they have all the variants, all that, and they know
Right.
more than me. And I asked them.
In our group, we refer
mind-blowing.
to having a complete Rolodex so that you can, in your mind, flip through and say, I've seen that before. I know what it is. I know what its value is, and I know how to tell if it's fake. So we're constantly working on increasing that Rolodex. But that's why, in our group, we always talk about niching down. That's why Sally is getting rid of all her action toys, because I don't know enough. I don't even know enough to know I don't know enough.
Wow.
Well, I'm going to let you guys go. I have been fascinated by everything you've said. I understood maybe 15% of it, which is up quite a bit from what I did before I began talking to you guys. Thank you so much. Please come back and talk to me again.
Anytime.
All right. Have a good one.
Absolutely.
All right.